Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and faces of the Warhammer 40k setting. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. If you wish to see the channel flourish, then like and subscribe. But do try to lend a hand with a comment. Not only do I find them interesting and often enlightening to read, but it would help me considerably. And today, we shall be taking a brief look at one of the mainstays of the Astartes armies, a specialist role to be certain, but one that is ubiquitous throughout every chapter of that order, the Space Marines. Now I do apologise for not having my big video out still, but had a dental emergency that made it untenable. Talking for a living has its downsides when you have a tooth issue. C'est la vie. My humble apologies for the delay yet again, but trust me, it's a whopper in the style of my recent night's video, as requested by you, the gentle listeners. Now, as a stopgap, and in honour of the new box set coming out soon, let us find out what the Assault Terminators are, and how they differ from the normal tactical Dreadnought armour. From the Bald Library. Swarm Lord detected. Klaxons alarmed throughout the Bloodspear's strike cruiser, unfettered wrath, as soon as they had translated into real space. Contact had been confirmed. Over the next hours, as the cruiser powered towards the planet, the few remaining active formations on the Imperial world had sent information. It was the Tyranids. Preparations for a drop assault instantly jumped into life. Yet, above all of this hubbub, 10 men heard the order in their vox beads. It was for them alone, to constrain panic amongst the chapter serfs, for even they would know what this message meant. Swarm Lord detected. Squad Fortis Fervor to don tactical Dreadnought armour. Mixed assault configuration. All 10 First Company veterans looked to each other and stoically nodded. It was their time. They would do what no others could. They would engage the Swarm Lord. But only half an hour later, they marched. Surrounded by ceramite tactical Dreadnought armour, the strongest protection known to the Astartes, Terminator warplate. They strode. Their footfalls were heavy and resounded throughout walkways and halls. To get to the teleportarum, they crossed the hangar bays. There, next to drop pods and Storm Raven strike craft, their brothers stood in full company strength. Lieutenants and chaplains, librarians and apothecaries, all were girt for war. Each drummed their spears, feet or shields in unison, the echoes declaring their pride. The fourth saluted their brethren of the First Company. They knew the odds. They knew what was at stake, yet none could espy the captain until the doors to the teleportarum slowly ground open. And there he stood, adorned with his own set of Terminator armour, storm shield at his side, Captain Rascalon. Next to him the ancient Tovan, company banner unfurled. Both were waiting for them. His helm in the crook of his left arm, Captain Rascalon addressed the squad. "Proud veterans of the Bloodspears, I am honoured by your presence." Squad Fortis all slammed their right hand into their chests 3 times in recognition of the sign of respect. The captain continued. "Down there is a Tyranid leader beast designated a Swarm Lord. If we cannot eliminate this threat, we will not be able to turn the tide. Tactical projections, backed by bitter experience, has proven that its mere existence down there enhances the cohesion and strategic and tactical threat of the bugs by factors. As such, we have dropped interceptor squads to create a spearhead at the very heart of the enemy swarming. They will be supported by drop-pod-delivered Blade Guard veterans to gain the attention of this Swarm Lord. When they identify its location, when it rears its filthy Xenos head, we will then teleport down and engage it. Pict and Vid records delivered by the defending formations have reported that it will be protected by a score of their heaviest guardian beasts, designated Tyrant Guard. Yet they also have some knowledge of defense in depth, it seems. The Swarm Lord has been universally reported to also be supported by Carnifex heavy artillery bugs. Hence, we cannot risk our brethren for such a storm. For there are many millions of Tyranids to annihilate if we are to save this planet of the Emperor's realm. We will arrive, then advance a short distance to its position under the cover of our storm shields. We will fight our way through these guardian beasts with Thunderhammer and Lightning Claw. Then I will take this Xeno hero and give him the Emperor's peace. If I should fall, then ancient Pragius will take my place. If he should fall, who among you will take up the company colours and finish this oath of moment? Unbidden, Brother Sergeant Baltan took one step forward. I will do this thing. I will see the oath fulfilled. And should I fall, my brothers will take my place until the enemy is dead, or Squad Fortis Fervor be undone. Captain Rascalon donned his helm and raised shield and hammer in the air. For the Emperor! As one, the squad and officers then marched into the center of the teleportarum. Reports were sent to the captain until he finally motioned to the tech priest. The time had come. Light and power filled the teleportarum, and then reality twisted and rent, and the Marines were teleported to the planet below. Story continued after the lore. Our assault Terminators, how I adore thee! I have quite a few, you see. But why? Surely this is the difference between weapons loadouts only. Surely. It's just a Terminator with a hammer instead of a fist. No? No. Although the Marines that wear the armour are no different, though they are indeed just re-equipped, and though the Power Fist is indeed one of the most deadly weapons in the galaxy, assault Terminators are not the same. The perspective, doctrines and reality of being fielded thus are not the same at all. Yes, the armour is identical. It is Terminator armour, either of the legendary forms, hailing back to the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy models, being the Cataphractii, Tartarus and even Saturnine patterns. But usually the newer, yet still venerable Indomitus pattern is most seen. The usual loadout being a power fist and a ranged weapon, mostly storm bolters, but there can be a wide variety chosen, from Volkites and combi bolters, all the way through the heavy weapons that can make up 1 in 5 Terminators in a squad. This gives the standard Terminator unit the ability to punch down walls, slay larger adversaries like the obligatory distract effects, or even go in close and tear a hard point or even vehicle to pieces in short order. The standard use of a Terminator teleportation assault is for decapitation strikes. The Terminators teleport straight into the heart of an enemy formation, preferably their command and control segment, and annihilate everything there. The fists killing and breaking down doors, the firepower to rinse those attempting to flee the event, if we can be honest. But they are still a Space Marine squad with quite a few uses, as they can also be beamed down to stand in the way of a major push and punch and blast their way towards the heart of an enemy force, and then crush the commanders that may be there, usually with a ranking officer or hero to back them up and make sure they can match the enemy warlord blade on fist. Yet the assault Terminators have a broadly different use. Now there are usually 2 configurations in the era Indomitus that herald the approach of assault Terminators. the dual lightning claw, or thunderhammer and storm shield varieties. And it is in their weapon loadout that the matter really shows itself. So let us briefly discuss that universally feared weapon of the Imperium, the legendary thunderhammer. For in 6 years of making video guidance, I don't recall ever covering this whopper in all its glory. The thunderhammer. Now, all power weapons activate in the same way, and it is true that the thunderhammer is similar in this regard. The weapon has a power field that surrounds the edge or end of a weapon. This power field is specifically modulated to break down the covalent bonds of anything it strikes. Thus the field diminishes the effectiveness of armor or any protection, weakening the object's structure. Thus a power blade's field will help the sword to carve straight through nearly anything, the field making the process seem almost like a magical enchantment. Also, if there is no massive protection to get through, or when the field makes contact with the fleshy inside of the enemy, it is like being hit with a taser and cooked at the same time. The field will make those it hits judder uncontrollably, melt and cauterize flesh, causing pain so extreme that a being struck with it might shatter their teeth under the pressure of their clenching to manage the excruciation. Yet the thunderhammer is even more than this. For it does not just have this energy field, it also discharges a massive explosion of physical energy. The field it has is also far stronger than the norm, so when one is struck with a thunderhammer, you are assailed in 3 ways. 1. The energy field erupts and courses down the body far more than any other power weapon. Men and monsters have been fried by this element alone. 2. The kinetic explosion of force that can shatter bones, annihilate and fragment armor. And 3. The actual head of the weapon is super heavy. In the hands of a transhuman space marine, it is akin to being struck by a sledgehammer wielded by an Ogryn or an automata robot. Thus the 3 elements combine to do so much more than the sum of their parts. Thus, these weapons are death incarnate. To witness someone being struck by a thunderhammer is a shocking and harrowing event, for each collision resounds like peals of thunder. Each target is shocked, crushed and smashed in equal measure. The fact is that the only things that could possibly resist its force are probably the Terminator armor itself, due to its protective fields and incredibly heavy overlapping armored plating. And even then, it is most often a coin toss on survival. Now we discuss the paired weapon of the thunderhammer, the storm shield. Another fan favorite, but to many it is construed as a silly thing. Why? Well, some might think that the shield is a simple slab of the same material that makes up the power armor itself. So, as the logic goes, why bother at all? Because if a weapon, say a melty, is shot at the marine, surely, if his armor cannot defend against the attack, then why would the shield do any better? Alas, this is a misconception, because that is a combat shield, which I could be forced to agree is often a silly thing if you think about it along the lines just covered. Yet the storm shield is not that at all. Oh no. For the storm shield is an incredibly advanced piece of war gear, despite its simplistic-looking appearance. The storm shield actually has an internal gravitic energy field generator. It is not just a shield, but, like the one wielded by Eric in the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, it creates a force field. Now it cannot be extended like some fields can. It is limited to the shield itself. Yet this field is fundamentally important, for it does not permit contact with the shield itself. Hence it can be protection against even the legendary thunderhammer or other power weapons. The gravitic field diffusing or dissipating the powerful energies of an attack. From las cannons to power weapons, the leeching of the force and potence of an attack makes the thick armored plating of the storm shield able to survive said attack and reduce its force to the tap of a toddler on your shoulder. Again, even against their own kind, Thunderhammer-armed Astartes, The storm shield can absorb all of the impact and power field, making it the perfect counter to the weapons they themselves wield. Now there are different patterns of storm shield, of course there are, like the suppression shield that has a far more aggressive output. Imagine engaging a Terminator and finding out that when your weapon strikes their protections, a shock of power runs down your weapon into your hand and through your body, electrocuting you to such an extent that your teeth shatter and eyes burst or melt. Nasty. But let us not get too bogged down. We can cover them in another entry. Now, some Vanguard squads of Firstborn have storm shields, and they are also utilized by the Blade Guard veterans of the Primaris Marines. Yet still, their most common appearance is on the Assault Terminator squad. When you add this all up, it makes for a very different beast to the standard Terminator. No firepower, but absolutely no mercy in combat. With shields that can absorb and deflect the most powerful attacks and weapons known to the galaxy, then backed up with the judicious use of the overwhelmingly destructive power of the Thunderhammer, this is a combination to strike terror into any adversary whatsoever. Ha! Not even Necrodermis is proof from this combination. Now this is the heaviest loadout, with very specific applications. It can bring down Hive Tyrants or Orc War Bosses with equal ease, but it demands that the enemy is in a fixed or deeply confined position. Basically, where they have nowhere to run to, nowhere to hide, baby. The Twin Power Claw variant is just as nasty, while occupying a slightly different tactical role. With Power Claws on each fist, the Marines become akin to a war chariot riding through the densely packed foe. In this configuration, the Terminator armor is trusted to protect the Marine from assault, while giving them far greater freedom to move and to cull swathes of enemies. Again, mostly deployed in close-quarter situations in very confined places. Where the Thunderhammer and Storm Shield combination is for marching up to monsters and bringing them low, the Dual Claw wielders are for taking out corridors full to the rafters with scum. A boarding action against anything but Marines, where there are hordes of Tyranids or Greenskins to be dealt with. An arena in which the enemy cannot bring firepower to bear that will easily cut through the Terminator armor. In these situations, the Power Claws, added to the strength and weight of the Terminator armor, will soon lead to a long walk down corridors with severed limbs and necks, a bloodbath without end. Or so, at a push, an almost heresy to think of, if a traitor or fallen Space Marine foe is densely packed and without true heavy weapon support. This is also where the dervishes of the clawed Assault Terminator squads can reap a staggeringly heavy toll. Hence, the Assault Terminator squad is rarely fielded. It may appear to be a sledgehammer to the face of the enemy, but in reality, it is a scalpel that can only be effectively applied by the truest savants of the art of war, the Space Marines. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. Don't click off just yet, the story will continue. Like, subscribe, patron, you know the drill. Tip via super thanks if you have truly enjoyed this video more than any other this week, as ludicrous as that may be to most. Entertainment and its worth are truly in the eye or ear of the beholder. Now, wish me luck with the needles and dental tugging that are in my very near future. Hospital job. It turns out older men have incredibly dense teeth. Weird. Let's hope I don't sound like a muppet when I return. But most importantly of all, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Back to the story. A burning ball of light expanded on the planet's surface, and out walked Captain Rascalon, Ancient Praegius Tovan, and Squad Fortis Fervor. It was pandemonium from the get-go. Above them, jetpack inceptors ranged the battlefield, shooting down heavy bolt rounds and plasma into the Tyranid forces, when they were not shooting or batting gargoyle Tyranids out of the skies. Behind the Terminator squad, their brethren Blade Guard veterans had formed a circle, were adding to the bulwarks of dead Tyranids around them. Regular balls of bioplasmatic death plumed and slammed into the Blade Guard shields. Yet, due to their experience and skill, only one veteran had fallen so far. They had done their duty. They had gained the attention of the beast. Advancing fast on the Blade Guard position, like an avalanche, came a wall of Tyrant Guard. Captain Rascalon raised his thunderhammer into the air and lowered it towards the oncoming heavy bugs, and the squad fortis fervor broke out into a counter-charge. Swinging hammers and, behind the front 5 Terminators, the lightning claw-equipped Terminators sliced through anything that came over the top of the storm shields or attempted to flank the block of Marines as they charged. The company batter fluttered in the wind as Torvin bellowed the litanies of hate as if a chaplain himself. The impact with the Tyrant Guard was a meeting of 2 unstoppable forces, and if the Tyranids were fighting near any other men or women in the galaxy, they would have stormed straight over them. The Bloodspear's Terminator veterans dealt out death like nothing the bugs had ever witnessed. Their sheer fury, a sight worthy of the Emperor's own eyes, worthy of the bloodline of Sanguinius, the Angel of Righteous Wrath. Behind them, the Blade Guard broke their circle and charged to prevent the Terminators from being enveloped, Inceptors forming up above the Blade Guard. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they failed now, the company and planet entire would be consumed by the Xenos. Yet, the Tyranids were no less savage in their attack. Tyrant Guards sacrificing themselves by pulling on the storm shields as they were dispatched, slowing the Marines, if not making them open to attacks from the bugs that came in the second and third rows of defenders. The Terminators were still proof for most of their attacks, losing none of their men despite the furore of their enemies. But now, they could all make out the approaching bulk of their quarry. The towering Stormlord had come. The captain gave the word. Now! The front line of a squad fortis broke the shield wall, and the lightning claw-wielding Marines burst forward, carving a route to the Xenos Warlord. A pathway that was immediately used by Captain Rascalon and Ancient Torvin to advance on the Swarmlord. And now we come to forge the narrative. You decide. So hit the comments section and make your feelings known. Do you want the Stormlord to tear the Bloodspears to pieces? For this would be the most likely scenario, if truth be told. So vote by putting S for Sierra, L for Lima, and W for Whiskey in the comments for Swarmlord wins. Or do you wish the valiant squad of Bloodspears and their commanders to dispatch the tyrant monster? If so, then put BSV, Bravo Sierra Victor, standing for Bloodspears Victorious, in the comment. Either way, the future battle will be described in full, every blow, every parry. If you have any prompts to help show the battle, feel free to give me the guidance I may require. So hit that comment section and have your say. Forge the narrative. You decide. And of course, toodaloo.